Hey, and welcome back. Mac and I have just come back from like a almost 1,000-mile road trip to Rennsport Reunion 7. We had a great time. The car did great. I'm so relieved that it not only got there but came home in one piece. To me, that's the real milestone, is being able to, trust the car and drive it at distance and drive it at speed. It actually did pretty good. I'm going to give you guys some of the pluses and the minuses about the drive and kind of what I learned about the car, and also make some improvements on it today. We'll start with the positives because it was such a positive weekend. The engine was fun, really fun. It's just super torquey. It doesn't matter what speed you're at, it just goes. So engine was a huge plus. The transmission worked out amazing. I didn't have any issues with the transmission. It probably could use a shifter, coupler adjustment again. I had it perfect, but I think just with the course of driving and having the motor mounts settle a little bit, I think it's altered the adjustment a little bit. So other than the coupler adjustment, I think the transmission is going to be a winner. The ride was really comfortable. So before I left, I decided to take the conies and move the adjustment. They're adjustable red conies. I turned them to full soft because I'm not running much weight in the front, and it still had some roughness to it. So full soft, and the car was just floating, especially at speed. The ride was really comfortable. The extra weight in the back is better matched with the Bilsteins that are still in the back. So the ride quality and the comfort was great. The seats are comfortable. I love the seats. The angle, they're buckets, so you can't adjust the recline angle. But the way I just guessed and put them in, I think the angle is fine. It was really comfortable. The visibility was great with the seat positions and the steering wheel positions. So I did use a little rubber air pad that I use in my daily driver. I don't think I even needed it, but I ended up bringing it just to be on the safe side. Now for the negatives, I think the negatives are mostly, no surprise to you guys, the sound. The new engine is louder than the 912 engine, and there is no provisions to deaden any sound in this car. You guys know this is really still a stripped out car, stripped out shell. There's no interior, no sound deadening, or very little sound deadening. So that was the big one. It wasn't horrible. I was traveling by myself, so I didn't have to have a conversation with, my passenger. Probably would have been difficult to communicate at freeway speeds. The one thing I learned pretty quickly at like 80 miles an hour or even on 70 miles an hour, the plexiglass windows on the side doors, they vibrate, and they're basically just too lightweight. They just make too much noise. They can't handle the wind as it's rushing by. It causes a lot of noise. I get noise from not just the engine, but from the trunk. So I can hear the fuel pump. I can hear, cracks in the road, the front suspension working. I can hear that through the trunk area because there's no tight seal between the trunk area and the cockpit. So my trunk area has got holes all over the place. The dashboard is full of holes. So that's one of the things I want to focus on today, is just starting to make the car more quiet and comfortable on the road. You can have all the sound deadening in the world or have a soundproof room, for instance, but if you leave the door open, the sound just comes right through. So job number one for me, at least, or in my mind, is to fill up all the holes, close the doors, close the windows, and then start to evaluate how loud it is. So that's step one. Step two is probably to work on that muffler. I think I can add something to it to quiet it down a little bit. And then finally, step three would be to add some actual sound deadening material, which the downside to that stuff is it's heavy. So I don't want to just coat the whole car in sound deadening material, but I want to use it sparingly only where needed. Probably the door skins, the roof skin, and maybe some of the firewall area. But that's kind of the game plan. So today I'm going to work on creating some plugs that go in the trunk area. And I have a new tool. It's the Creality laser engraver cutter. So that's going to allow me to take some lightweight plastic sheet and cut the shapes I need to plug the holes in the trunk area and the dashboard area. For instance, the speaker and some of the vent holes that I'm not using at all. This is the Creality Falcon 2 22 watt laser. So let's see if we can make some parts with this. Cables, user guides. So the format of the frame is pretty good size. So I think I'm gonna like this machine. There we go, it is unboxed. So let's get the manuals out, figure out what we need to assemble, make sure we do it right the first time, and give it a whirl. I didn't realize it came with its own air compressor, which is even better. It's got vibration isolators on the pump. It's kind of cool. This is the laser, and it's the 22 watt one. So I'm hoping to be able to cut through a lot of stuff. So this is great. Here's the power supply. That plugs in here. The setup really wasn't too bad. It's just attaching a few things. This is a rotary attachment, so you can engrave or cut tubular things, which is cool. This is empty, this is empty. Or these are some safety glasses for operating with lasers. Sample materials, interface cable, a little brush there for probably cleaning the lens. This is, I think, set up for the rotary table. And this is, yeah, adapters and tools and maybe another lens or something like that. And like I said, my first project is going to be to cut some little ABS pieces of plastic, and that's to control the holes. There's open airflow coming from that vent right there. It pressurizes the whole front of the car, and then the air gets into the cockpit, and it's causing a lot of noise, causing a lot of wind. So I'm just trying to, make some simple plugs. The hood is sealed all the way around the perimeter, but that seal keeps the water out, but it doesn't keep the wind out because that vent is very open to high-speed, driving. So you get tons of air in here. The fuel pump is inside the fuel tank. It's underneath that big filler spout. And the whole tank kind of vibrates with the fuel pump. So there's no sound deadening on it. All that sound gets transmitted sort of inside the cabin. You can only really hear it when you're at a stoplight, but still, I think it's important to, really seal this area up because I'm not going to be adding a lot of the AC and heater functions. I'll probably have a defroster and that's about it. Now the material I want to use is this thin ABS. It's very lightweight, so fits the theme of the car, but it has this kind of textured surface to it, so it doesn't look too cheap. And the thought is to, cut this on the laser cutter and get some nice clean cuts on it so we can now apply it to the car and seal up all the holes. That's today's goal. So let's get to it. Okay, so this traced template just goes on my flatbed scanner, just like that. We just lay it down on top, close the lid, and get the file into my computer, and then I draw over it on my CAD software. It comes with a little key, which makes it feel kind of important. Data file that I've created on my computer just goes right in here. This is a little SD card that plugs in, and then we switch it on. And then if we hit frame, that'll take the artwork and it'll just kind of start to circulate. That's the envelope of where it's going to cut. So it's just a little bit off, so I can move this over just a few clicks to make sure I'm using the whole thing. So now I think I can hit play and this should cut out my design. This might be a little too slow. But there it is. This is the plug. I wanted to try it on something lower power and also something that is, you know, more disposable. So let's take this over to the car and just check the fit. All right, now it's time to cut the real plastic, and it comes with this focusing tool that, depending on the thickness that you're cutting, between 1 and 3 millimeters, this is where you want to set the height of the laser. So this is a little bit too low now, so if you loosen these thumb screws, you can kind of adjust the height here. So I'm going to adjust that kind of with one hand to make sure that goes underneath, and then, you know, tighten it very carefully. Go ahead and pull it out. That should work now for the focusing distance on this piece. That's, like I said, it's about 2.5 millimeters thick, or about 90 thousandths thick. Now I've increased the power to 100%, and I'm cutting this at 10 millimeters per second. So hopefully that's going to be enough power and enough speed to get all the way through. Just so you know, I have, this is an airflow switch here. I've got it turned all the way up, and that just tries to, you know, kind of keep the smoke out of the way of the lens. So that keeps it nice and clean. Let's go. Okay, this time it's 8 millimeters per second. You see it moving much slower. I have the air turned all the way up. You can see it's a real fine line that it cuts. But I can tell the way the smoke is exiting the honeycomb. I can tell it's going through now. There we go. Now the finish on the end is great. It's a very square cut. It's almost like a polished end to it. So it's perfect. Now we can countersink these holes if we want. Now if we turn the air down, we'll see what it does to the smoke. This is a little variable airflow device here. Seems to work the best with it wide open. You want to clear as much of that smoke out as you can. And it's pushing air right through the cut line. Definitely want to do this with the doors open because it smells like burning rubber. But I was able to put that right inside the other part that didn't cut. So that's what I looked for right there. It looks like there's a little bit of a hang up. There it goes. This is the piece I want to keep. And it's, you know, this is ABS. It's pretty rigid. This has you know, the textured side and a glossy side. So I'm just going to glue the glossy sides together. And there are special glues for ABS, but I think this is going to be fine. This is just super glue. So now we just give this a few minutes to dry. And we can try it out on the car. Yeah, I think we got it straight.
Okay, this guy fits great in there. Just a little bit of movement, but it keeps it nice and centered. Some screw holes will hold that down, and then I will probably either put a gasket behind that or some seam sealer that will give it an airtight fit. And then I've got another guy here. Fits right there. We'll get some countersunk screws for that and screw that down as well. Some of these other holes that are just purely round, that is probably good for just a rubber plug. This one here has a contour to it, so that one's going to be a little bit tougher. We'll have to heat the plastic and kind of bend it a little bit. So that one may require, you know, a little bit of effort, but I'll go ahead and make a template for it. We'll try to cut something out and see what we can do. I just noticed I'm getting a lens light, which means the lens is getting dirty. If you look at all the smoke coming out of here, it's no surprise the lens is going to accumulate some smoke. So we'll go through the process of cleaning the lens and making sure the laser stays nice and sharp. I've already gone through like 3 or 4 of these, you know, big sheets, probably 12 by 6. And this is that funny little oval 3D shape I need to bend. So it's just starting to get soft. And that tape is kind of the line I want to bend it at. I just want to bend it up. I think when I put the screws in it, I think it'll draw it down and fit pretty tight. So I put those 4 holes in it so I can screw it down with some washers on the backside. And like I said, I can squirt some seam sealer in there too to make it airtight. There's also some audio foam that you can use to, you know, do exactly this. Fill gaps and prevent sound from leaking through. So I may buy some of that as opposed to using seam sealer because I don't want it to damage the paint either. These holes should be for the door switch and the interior lights, I believe. So I'll probably not going to make anything for that. I'll just get the correct grommets. And I think there are some factory plugs for this. These ones have like a little threaded feature in them. So I think I'll order the factory plugs for that one. So these little things seem kind of subtle, but it really does make the car better and more enjoyable to drive. I think obviously the muffler is going to be the biggest impact, but that video and that effort is going to be multiple, you know, days, lots of research, got to buy some parts. This was something coming off Rennsport that was kind of easy, and using this Creality laser cutter has been really fun. This is an enjoyable project. I know it's going to be beneficial to the car, and the possibilities are endless. I mean, I can make gaskets with this thing. It'll do a complete 911 valve cover gasket. I think the rotary attachment could be used to do like the exhaust fish mouth templates. I can cut a cardboard template, lay it over the stainless or round pipe,
and then do the trim on that, have different intersections come together. All kinds of engraving, not maybe on the dashboard, maybe some engraved leather on the, like Carbone does on the fuel tank filler. Those are typically laser engraved, laser cut on leather. So this thing is pretty versatile. I'm really happy with it. It's just what you want for the garage and kind of DIY kind of activity. So thank you guys for being here. It was great to meet many of you at Rennsport. It was such a cool weekend. Tons of great cars. I ended up not taking a lot of video because I didn't want to bring my whole camera rig with the computer and all that stuff. I just wanted to enjoy the milestone and be there for meeting people, talking to people, looking at cars. I took a few pictures, but not like as good as everyone else did. So we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.